the second city of the empire. Mother Glasgow nurses all her wings, trying hard to feed her little starlings. Unconsciously she clips their little wings. Mother Glasgow soccer is perpetual, oh yeah, nestling the billy and the tin. Oh, I dreamt I took a dander with St. Mungo to try to catch a fish that could not swim.
Behind me you can see Glasgow's coat of arms. The present coat of arms bar a couple of changes, dates from about 1866. But how do you represent in one crest a divided city like Glasgow? What do you choose to show that every shade and colour of this eclectic city can embrace? Well, to answer that conundrum, our civic leaders went back to the city's very foundations, the very beginnings of the city, and specifically to the man who founded the city. Our patron saint, St. Mungo, he's that wee man on the top of the crest. St. Mungo was born in 518 AD in a monastery in Fife. How he got there is probably not the story that you would expect. His mother goes by many names, St. Thenu or Tenu, but most commonly she's known as St. Enoch. She was named after the shopping centre. But she was a princess. She was the daughter of a king, and somewhat ironically given the rivalry now with Edinburgh, he was the king of the area now known as the Lothians. And in a rather tragic first, St. Enoch may be the first woman in recorded history to be a rape victim, a victim of sexual assault, because she was raped by a prince from Wales. Mungo was conceived as a result of that. But her father, rather than being a good dad, decided he was going to be ashamed of her, and he was going to try and kill her. And so he took her up to a place called Treprain in East Lothian. There was a mountain, and he tried to throw her off the side. Thankfully she survived that, and rather than come to his senses and decide, actually I'm going to be a decent human being here, he decided no, he was going to try again. So he put her out on a boat on the River Forth, hoping that she would be swept out to sea and drowned. But rather than being swept out to sea and drowned, she washed up on the banks of this monastery in Kilross in Fife, where St. Cerf was the Father Superior, and he took in Enoch and her unborn child Mungo, and there they found a refuge in a Christian monastery, and it was there St. Mungo grew up. And many years later, in the 6th century, in the 500s AD, he would come here to where Glasgow Cathedral now stands and plant a church. So that's Mungo. But what's all this business about trees and fish not swimming and bells and all that? Well, these are the miracles that were attributed to St. Mungo. And rather ironically, another irony, there's a couple of ironies in this. The way that we remember those miracles is by a poem written by Protestants denying that the miracles ever happened. And it goes, here is the bird that never flew, here is the tree that never grew, the fish that never swam, and the bell that never rang. The mural behind me was painted by an Australian artist who calls himself Smug. And I can see why, because he's got a lot to be smug about. I mean, that is fantastic, isn't it? Just look at that. He actually looks like a guy I used to work for. But here we see St. Mungo portrayed as a homeless man, and the picture portrays specifically the first miracle in her home, the bird. So the story goes that when Mungo was growing up in the monastery in Kilross, there was other boys growing up there as well, and they were jealous of Mungo because there was a clear case of favouritism going on. St Cerf clearly had a favourite, and it wasn't any of the other boys, it was Mungo. And the other boys were jealous, so they took St Cerf's robin and they killed it. And they were going to blame it on Mungo, but before they even had the chance, St Mungo had brought the bird back to life.
Fetch! Go on! Oh! Look at that, look at him! He's a headstrong wee swine, so he is.
And they would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for that meddling saint. Now the tree. Now the story goes that it was Mungo's duty to watch the fire growing up at the monastery. And one night, like Private Godfrey in Dad's army, he must have dropped off, he fell asleep, and the fire went out, and he woke up and he realised the fire was out. So what did he do? He rushed outside, went to this tree, picked some branches, he put them in the fireplace, he prayed over them, and when he opened his eyes, the fire had rekindled.
Oh, smashing, that's a rare heat, that.
Somewhere beyond.
Hey, this is not an ordinary salmon, this is a historical salmon.
Now we come to the fish. Now the story involves the King of Strathclyde. It's either the King of Strathclyde or the King of Cadzow, which I think is now Hamilton. The sources differ, but I have on record a professor from Strathclyde University saying it is the King of Strathclyde. Now you might argue they're a bit biased, but we'll go with it. So the King of Strathclyde bought his wife a ring, but he suspected his wife was doing the dirty on him with somebody else.
She went and done the dirty on me, so she did.
Those fears were later confirmed when he saw that ring that he'd bought his wife on the finger of one of his knights. So when that knight was asleep, he took the ring off the knight's finger and he chucked it in the river behind me, the River Clyde. He then, when he saw his wife, asked his wife to show him the ring, which she obviously couldn't do because he chucked it in the river. She went to Mungo in her desperation, explained the situation to him and asked for his help. Mungo got one of his disciples to go and catch a fish in the Clyde, and when he caught a fish, they gutted it, and lo and behold, inside the fish was the ring. And that is why Glasgow is the only city in the United Kingdom with a salmon on its coat of arms. Now the bell. The bell's a bit different. The bell is said to be a gift that was given to Mungo by the Pope, no less, on his pilgrimage to Rome. And it was said the reason it's classed as a miracle is because it was said that when it was rung and people prayed to Mungo, that they would be healed. Now the bell, the original bell, no longer exists, but a copy of it was made in 1641. And that's said to still be in the stores of the council's museum resources. As far as we're aware, unless they've flogged it off for scrap, who knows?
Let Glasgow flourish.
So lastly, the city's motto. Let Glasgow flourish. It's believed that comes from perhaps a quote from St Mungo himself. It's part of a longer quotation, which may have been a prayer or from a sermon of St Mungo, which says, "Lord, let Glasgow flourish by the preaching of thy word and the praising of thy name." This was later cast on the bell of the Tron Church, and then when the city leaders put together their coat of arms in 1866, it was shortened to "Let Glasgow flourish." However, from time to time, even up to recently, the full quote has the full motto has still been used. For example, the American evangelist Billy Graham, when he came to Glasgow in 1955, he had the full motto plastered on the front of the Kelvin Hall where he was based: "Let Glasgow flourish by the preaching of his word and the praising of his name." Around about the same time too, when Prince Philip received the freedom of the city, the Lord Provost used the same quote, the full motto as part of the ceremony. The cynics might argue, what does any of this have to do with modern Glasgow? Well, I would say it has everything to do with modern Glasgow. Modern Glasgow would not be here if this man had not planted his church on the banks of the Mullendiner Burn here in the 6th century. If he had not planted that seed, this city would not have grown and flourished into the modern day city that it is, with all its highs and lows. Imagine the task of putting together a coat of arms today which is modern, but also stands the test of time and embraces everybody in this city. It would be almost impossible. The one thing that unites us all, whether we be Rangers or Celtic, or Partick Thistle for that matter, Protestant or Catholic, black or white, Jew or Gentile, normal Glaswegian or from Maryhill, the one thing that brings us all together is that we live in this city that was founded by St Mungo. We live in St Mungo's parish. That's it. That's the one thing that unites us. And that's why the crest tells the story of this city. The one thing that we can unite around. That we live in a city that was founded by St Mungo. And so therefore, that makes sense that the crest tells his story, because his story is our story.